I was born down in Ascot. My parents lived in Bracknell at the time. Ended up moving up to Northampton. I love fitness. I love working out. I love anything within that sort of space. And I've always wanted something that's my own puppy. Started the ice bath company, and it's really gone from sort of strength to strength. We did over £1 million in our first year. So when somebody says to me, it's not possible to launch a successful business in a year, I'm telling you, you can.
Yeah.
You really can.
Yeah, you've done ice baths and saunas and stuff for the Stoltman brothers, the Strongmen, people like Tom Hardy, Billy from F2, Ollie Murs, Ross Edgley, Brian Shaw.
I'm in an industry where I'm able to literally save lives through something that I was able to design. I think that for me is incredible.
Powerful, isn't it?
This guy has literally just been through the shittest time of his life. He'd lost his wife to suicide. I said, let him know that he can borrow an ice bath, that he can just have it. Jake said that he phoned him up and he was in tears. I'm grateful to be in a position to be able to do that.
Before you start this episode, please can you click subscribe below and follow our social handles in the description. It's a massive help and it keeps you up to date with all the exciting announcements from the podcast. Thanks, Luke, for coming in and seeing us today.
Pleasure's all mine.
Appreciate you giving us some time. I always throw the same question at everybody that comes in to start, which is putting you on the spot straight away. So if you're up for the challenge. So want you to take maybe like a minute and a half tops to take us through your life so far. So literally from the start to present day in a minute and a half.
A minute and a half.
There's a bit of a challenge. Yeah. You have to focus on the good bits.
I know, because there's so many years as well.
So many years. Covering it with a beard.
Covering it with a beard, that's it.
So take us away.
Yes, I was born down in Ascot. My parents lived in Bracknell at the time. My parents, when I was first born, didn't have a lot, so I grew up for the first 6-7 months in a trailer, in the back of a lorry. So that was my kind of beginnings. My dad set a business up, which was in conveyors and construction industry.
Yep.
So we then ended up moving up to Northampton, or just outside of Northampton, which is where we sort of grew up. I'm the eldest of 6 kids. My previous work experience before the ice bath company, I was working in the family business. Me and my brothers were running that for many years together. Loved it, absolutely loved the people that were working with us. We had a 40-odd strong team of guys and girls. But I couldn't wake up every morning and say, do you know what, conveyors is my jam. This is what I love doing. I love fitness. I love working out. I love anything within that sort of space. And I've always wanted something that's my own puppy, my own sort of child, business-wise, if you like. So I took the sort of big decision to leave my previous role, and I now have zero day-to-day activity there. Started the ice bath company, and it's really gone from sort of strength to strength. I've been a competing bodybuilder. I started my sort of fitness and wellness in gymnastics. Loved that. Was then a coach for a while. Went into bodybuilding, and the two for me really didn't mix amazingly because I'm a really lazy stretcher. So carried on the bodybuilding route, and I love it. I love eating the same stuff every single day, and all sorts. But slowly I think transitioning over to more strength sports. So looking at potential strongman competitions later on this year. I'm always up for a bit of a change.
I wouldn't have guessed that you work out quite a bit. You're about 3 times the size of me. So
funny, I just started training yesterday.
Oh, that makes you feel awful. Thanks so much. No. So how much does the kind of fitness side of things impact your life at the minute in terms of, with everything you've got going on? You spend a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the gym has always been my emotional crutch. If I know that I'm going through a little bit of a stressful time, one of the things that I need to make sure for me and my own sort of headspace is making sure that I'm doing things that help me. And I think one of the big things that's maybe difficult when you're going through stressful situations is it may be stressful because there's a lack of control over whatever the circumstance is. But for me, I find that when I'm training, that's one of the areas that I have 100% control. Whether it's in the food that I eat, whether it's in how much water I'm drinking, whether it's in my training intensity, whatever it is, I'm in complete control. So that kind of puts my brain in a really easy state
Yeah.
then. So, yeah, it always has been, and I probably see it always being there. A sort of part of my sort of general day-to-day activities, because it's so good, physically, but also from a mental headspace. Yeah.
Okay. And what we'll come on to in a bit as well is that kind of juggling, because one of the questions that we've got from some of the viewers and listeners is in and around that challenge, around juggling the work life with the home life and the fitness that you've got going on and all that sort of stuff. So we'll come on to that in a bit. But looking at, like you said, you've been involved in sort of multiple businesses, family businesses. There's been little spin-off bits through COVID as well with Mace, in terms of stuff that you've done around weights and different things that we'll come on to as well, which I think is pretty cool. And I think the Ice Bath company, in terms of what it stands for, what you're trying to do, the branding, the actual overall product, coming from someone who's got one, it's brilliant. And I'm not just saying that because I've got one. There's other ice baths out there in the market, that you can get. And I think yours is just very unique in the way that it's put together, the look, the feel, the quality, and just how you kind of perceive and talk about the brand, which there's, again, a couple of questions further on in terms of kind of how you go about doing that and how you go about creating that and stuff. Yeah. So just taking it back a step. So you mentioned your early life. You mentioned you sort of grew up in the back of a trailer. Yeah. Take us through sort of how that works.
Well, at the time, the council where my mum and dad were down in Bracknell, they didn't have any housing available. Yeah. So the only sort of option we had was my granddad at the time had a small business where he was doing sort of transport and different bits with lorries, and we ended up converting. I say we, my mum and dad. Ended up converting a 40-foot trailer, and that was where a home was for the first 6-7 months. But you just you got to roll with what you get, and you've got to make the best out of whatever situation you really sort of in. And so for me, even sort of growing up, with my dad starting a business, and I remember our sort of best Christmases. That the money was never really something that was available. Yeah. My sort of best memories with Christmas is a bit. So Dad used to make us toys. He used to make us stuff, and they were the most exciting times. Yeah. That was so for me. Starting a business, especially with this now, with the Ice Bath Company, money is great, and nobody goes into business to not earn and generate money. It is what it is, right? Yeah. But it's not the be-all and end-all. And so for me, having sort of come from that kind of space, I'll always be grateful for that, and try to instill the same for my boys as well, that life isn't about money, and you can find happiness and peace and everything outside of all of that. Yeah. But you just got to be really present and be grateful for the things that you have now. Yeah. So that was.
Is that always how you felt, or is that how you feel now? Is that taking a process to go through to understand that, or has that always been there?
Yeah, it's always. I've never really had a mindset of want. Really, I've always been a relatively present individial, and I've tried to sort of be in the now and really see things that are around me and really feel a gratitude for it. So, I think I've been very lucky naturally to have that kind of mindset. Yeah. For it.
Is that the same for everyone in your family? Is that native to you?
No, I think it probably is, because
being one of six, I suppose everybody's a bit different, aren't they? Yeah.
I think the younger ones had sort of seen things a little bit different, because as the main family business grew, they were able to see differences financially as to how that went. But by the time that was the case, and the main sort of family business was in a great position. Yeah. I'd got married. I'd left home, so I'd sort of I didn't sort of have that experience in the sort of my first sort of family, if you like, with mum, dad, and the rest of the brothers and sisters. But I loved it, mate. I loved it. So for us growing up, we were in and around the village the whole time. That was us. We were out playing games and climbing trees and swinging from branches.
You wouldn't get that you don't get that much anymore.
You don't get it much anymore, do you?
Everybody's on phones and social media and scrolling and all that sort of stuff is what's important, isn't it? Yeah. What was the best toy that your dad made you?
It was a car. Okay. So what he'd done is he'd...
big, small?
No, it was a relatively big car. Yeah. So I must have been maybe about 10 at the time-ish. He'd got an oil barrel, so a plastic oil barrel. He'd cut a sort of area on the top of it out so you could sit inside it.
Yeah.
He was a welder fabricator, so he'd welded this frame inside this, put a seat in there, and he'd put a really small little Robin engine, like the old Honda engines. He'd sort of mounted that to the back. With a single wheel on the back and then a steering wheel. So it was incredible.
A proper thing,
Proper thing. But I had this thing for years, mate. I loved it.
Yeah.
We had a decent sized garden, so we'd scream around in the garden for forever. My brother that year as well. One of my brothers got an aeroplane that Dad had made, exactly the same, out of an oil barrel, and had just put wooden wings on it, and instead of like the propeller was on the front, there was no motor on this, but he'd made this joystick as well, which then turned the rear wheel. Mate, it was all things that
good memories. Yeah,
it was great memories, but it was all sort of imagination spurring. So I loved it.
So going on that then, it's really interesting you say that, because I think one of the things from engaging a bit more with you over the last few months and understanding a bit more about the type of business that you run and how you create things and how you come up with ideas, do you think that's where it starts from for you?
100%. Seeing, I love seeing things go from idea to reality.
Yeah.
That for me I find fascinating, especially with business and sort of growing up in an environment where I was able to see my dad do that, but also one of the things that he'd always be doing with the house is always extending it. I lived on a building site literally until I left home. It was constantly under renovation, never ever finished. No, but it was always progressing. It was always something. It wasn't a state that he was never happy with it. It was just that, actually we could do this. And then he'd got to a stage where that would be done, and it'd be like, actually we could do this to it as well. So it was always a sort of progressive forward thinking about, again, being happy in the now, but what's next? How can we make this a little better?
Is that something that is a trait of your dad?
I think so. Yeah. I think so. Yeah, and that's certainly something that sort of rubbed off on me.
You think that's a good thing, a bad thing?
I think it can be used in both ways. I think having goals and having dreams are extremely important. I think what most people forget is, when you have goals and dreams, they're amazing, but you need to actually act on them. Otherwise, they'll always stay there. And having goals and dreams that are never acted upon can actually generate disappointment as opposed to motivation. So for me, one of the biggest things that I've been able to really hone in on is action. So whether having good ideas is all well and good, but if you never do anything with it, it'll never generate.
Always going to be anything. An idea.
No.
Someone else will do it probably.
Exactly. And whether it was product design, whether it was a service, it didn't matter what it was. If you had the idea, try it. If it works, amazing. I mean, before setting up the ice bath company, I tried 3 or 4 different things. And I'd soon found that either I didn't like doing it, or that it wasn't for me, or just that it was a silly
in and around fitness idea. And stuff like that, or around, different.
I'd retrained as an NLP practitioner, as a performance coach, a business mentor, through sort of my experience, and I'd found that actually for me, working one-on-one with individuals and having that as my mainstay income really changed my perception and my focus of that work, and I didn't enjoy it. I really didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy. I loved working with people. In that environment, because I love spurring people on. I love the motivation side. I love that energy transfer between people. But weirdly, I didn't enjoy being paid for it, because it changed my personal mindset of it. So I do now, sort of speaking engagements, being able to share my experience, but both in schools and different areas, but I don't charge for it. I love doing that kind of thing, because you can spur people on. And actually, we've done a morning for a school in Northampton, which is an entrepreneurial day, and they had a number of their kids that were they'd all sort of put their hand up. They wanted to attend this session. We were there for about 5 hours or so. And a number of the really sort of troubled kids who were really not particularly well behaved, they were incredible during this. You could see,
just light bulb moments.
Massively light bulb moments. Kids who are potentially from a little bit more deprived backgrounds. You start talking to them about how they can generate their own income from an idea that they have to actually then put X, Y, Z into motion. Their eyes, they're going, whoa, hang on, I can do this.
Yeah.
But nobody speaks about that.
Might struggle on the book stuff, you know,
Oh,
all that sort of stuff,
but
maths,
mate, who
science,
doesn't?
all that sort of stuff, yeah.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I was never, you know, the sort of brightest kid in school. I didn't do amazing. I didn't do terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, maths certainly wasn't my, you know, strong point. I enjoyed it, but it doesn't ever need to hinder you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't need to stop you from doing X, Y, Z, because now that's what you have an accountant for.
Yeah.
You know, within business. So yeah, I think you're sort of working with schools and working with kids. For me, I love doing those sorts of things.
Doing it. Yeah. No, I can understand why taking a payment then it becomes a transaction. It's just not probably the reason why you wanted to do it in the first place.
No, that's right. And I think you've got to listen to your gut, because sometimes when you're doing something, it'll feel right, and other times you'll be doing something and it doesn't. But you won't ever know until you've actually tried it.
Yeah.
Same with any kind of business idea. You know, sometimes it'll work, sometimes it just doesn't.
Give it a go, haven't you?
Yeah, but and I think a lot of the times as well, you've got to know when to keep on going, but also I think it's really important to know when to stop.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not feeling that this is right for you or your family situation or whatever it is, you got to be bold enough to go, this really isn't me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is why then creating the ice bath company, what I'd done is really have a look at what the things, some of the things that were really important to me.
Yeah.
And how can I create a business that revolves around that? So we don't open, our offices don't open till 9:30. That's not just because we're lazy or we don't want to be in the office until 9:30. Personally, so that I can do the school runs in the morning.
Yeah.
But not just me. Anybody that's working with us can go do the school runs in the morning. It was something that I never ever had the opportunity to do. And I've been married to Charlie for nearly 16 years now. Our oldest is 14. I'd never really had the opportunity to do the school run. So I thought, if I'm building something, let's build it around life so that I've got a life-work balance as opposed to a work-life balance. That makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, I look back to my 20s, like we were discussing before we came on, in terms of kids and family and stuff. And I look back at my 20s and I'm not surprised. Sometimes relationships come and go, and that's just the way it is, and that's positive for my ex-wife and myself. We're both happier now and great. But I think a lot of the issues in my 20s were down to it was all work.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not embarrassed about that, but as I get older, as you experience a bit more and you start to actually understand, and the light bulb clicks in of what's actually important. Isn't that important? Yes, it's needed. You have to do it. You need to be passionate about it. You do need to be in at a certain time and do all this stuff. I still don't believe in all the social media crap that says, oh yeah, you can turn up for one day a week, run a great business, go and do all this sort of stuff. I don't think that exists. I think that's just there for clicks, and that's just what it is. But I do think that the balance is important. The way that I started in my 30s, but probably 29, 30, started to look at, I put a lot of pressure on myself previously of work-life balance. I worked till 8, 9 at night. Then I'd go home, eat dinner, my laptop would be on, I'd maybe stay out till 1, 2 o'clock. Not every night, just maybe 2, 3 nights a week. Because I wanted to be successful, I wanted to earn, I wanted to be the best I could be, and I wanted to progress myself and my family. But actually, when you look at it, I'm regressing those areries because I'm missing so much time. Like, I look at the time I spend with Delilah now, my youngest, 3.5 months old, 4 months old. I've been to every appointment. I've been to absolutely everything. I spend more time at home now than I ever have done because I'm capturing moments. I'm involved. And I look back, selfishly, when I look back at Freddie's first 2 years, for example, and he's like 10 this year now, I miss those moments. And I made sure this time I'm not going to do that because I've got a choice. But even if I think I was employed, I would try and broker a conversation with my employer to say, look, can I have some flexibility with this? I'll pick the hours up, but can I be involved? Like, I do school runs as well. It's great. I sometimes see you at the school, don't I? But I love doing that now, and it's part of the day. But it's kind of, it's lovely that you kind of start the business, and even one of those small little things about start time, which is minute in the grand scheme of things.
That's it.
It's actually quite important because there'll be other people in the same situation that won't have that benefit.
No, 100%. And at the end of the day as well, we talk about starting business, and you talk about X, Y, Z, and one of the biggest used phrases is, I'm doing all of this for my family. That's all well and good, but if you never see them, what's the point? Do you know what I mean?
You'll lose your family because of it, probably.
You'll lose your family, and that again is another thing that has really taught me about business, because my mum and dad are now separated.
Okay, yeah.
Because my dad was 100%, because he needed to be, or his feeling was he needed to be at the time.
Yeah.
So that's been about longer than that, nearly 16 odd years now that's been the case. So for me, again, when I look around me and think, well, what do I see that works really well, and what do I see that doesn't work really well, and how can I adapt my life to be able to fit as best as possible?
Yeah.
Mate, spending time with family, because that for me, if I can honestly say I'm doing all of this so that for family, I need to be present when I'm there, and I need to spend the time. There will be times when, let's take this last weekend. We had the Fit Expo up in Manchester. I'd completely forgot, because my memory is like a flipping fish, mate. As soon as I stop doing something and I'm onto something else, I completely forget what I was doing. It's probably ADHD or something in there somewhere. Yeah. But I completely forgot that the Sunday, was my little one's birthday.
Yeah.
But also, we'd booked to go out for dinner that evening. And just a few days beforehand, I said to Charlie, I said, I completely forgot.
Yeah.
I got an expo this weekend. I know it's Jake's birthday, so I was originally planned to stay up there for the weekend, so I travelled to and back from Manchester every night so I could play on Fortnite with him before he went to bed, because he had his mate over on the Friday, and then made sure I was there on the Saturday night so I could set all of his PS4 up and whatnot for him on there. So I was there on the Sunday. But she had to then cancel the dinner appointment that we had on the Sunday for the Monday. And Charlie's mum said to her, does that not annoy you? You're not frustrated with that? And Charlie goes, well, no, not really. It's sort of part of the parcel, because I get to, Luke's at home, every morning. He does the school run. There's swings and roundabouts with it. There's give and take with it all. And I think from my point of view is having that honest, open relationship as well with your partner, to make sure that, because this isn't just our singular journey. Especially when you've got a partner, you've got a family. This is our journey that we're going on. These crazy decisions that we sort of push and sort of work our nuts off to be able to get to do X, Y, Z. Mate, they're along the ride as well. It's and for me, doing that together in a partnership is hugely key to have that success. So
what does your partner give you in terms of the balance? Where does she play her part? Because I completely agree with what you're saying, by the way. I've had it on both. I've had a previous relationship that put the stoppers on anything to do with starting my own business, which I regret, but it is what it is. And my current partner, Sophie, who was immediately supportive, regardless of what it was you're not happy now, you'll be happy doing that. I think you can do it. Let's do it. Don't care what's standing in the way. Let's do it. And understands, like you said, that balance of time. And if I'm busy, I'm busy. If I'm not, I'm not. I will try. And she knows I'll put the effort in to be at home as much as I can, because I want to be, rather than not wanting to be. So she gives me a bit more balance. She'll also tell me when I'm overstepping that balance as well, which I think is important. So what does your partner give you in terms of that? And how do you feel like in other business owners, how do you feel that the partner is important?
I think business and relationships can both make and break, on both sides. As you said, if your partner's very putting the stopping against, you can have the best idea business wise, but it could be very obviously detrimental to business if that's the case. But also on the flip side, if all your concentration and effort is on the business and you're not sort of looking after and doing the things and listening really to your partner. But for me, Charlie's an incredible grounder for me. There is a lot of time that I spend up here. I'm on the lookout. I'm saying, Charlie, what about this? X, Y, Z, and she keeps me very grounded. With things. She's not risk adverse, but is very risk managing, which is great for me because I'm not risk adverse. So we're able to really work well together on that, and we've been through some crazy stuff, and life's not been easy, as a relationship, and some of the decisions that we've made have been very good. Sort of business decisions we've made has been very good for us. Others have been very testing, for us. But one of the big things as well that Charlie's taught me is about communication. One of the things for me growing up is that communication wasn't always my strong point. I was always quite an extrovert, but I was a very surface extrovert. So I was good as gold, having a good chat about nothing, and just keeping it really surface level. How's the day? How's the weather? How's this? How's that? But never actually getting deep. Yeah. Either inside of me or asking deep questions about how somebody actually is feeling themselves. So, which got me through, but what Charlie's been able to really bring out of me, and which I've been able to really seep into business heavily, is opening up. Is about being present and being real. Because I think a lot of the time when you're very surface level, especially with social media as it is now, it's very transparent that when somebody is being surface level.
Of course it is,
for me, learning to communicate on a much better scale with Charlie, and then being able to then bring that into my general life has been a huge sort of eye opener.
Does she know how much of a big part she plays?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and there's always times where we still disagree on things. I mean, when I'd first sort of conceived the ice bath company, and it was a trying time because I needed to make this work. Because
do you remember that time when you first had the conversation with her to say, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, and she is the most incredibly supportive person. And what we'd done previously is I knew that I wasn't happy where I was beforehand. So we'd saved enough money up so that I didn't have to work for a year, so that I could focus on developing something, whatever that was going to be. Yeah. I hadn't yet thought of what the ice bath company was going to be. But through the months of sort of trial and error with sort of business ideas, and then this came to mind, I then sunk. Obviously, the product development is expensive. I then sunk a good amount of money into developing this, and we got to a stage where I remember sitting on the bed with Charlie, and she said, "Luke, listen, if I need to go out and get a job, you need to let me know." Yeah, and I thought, I'm putting my my stresses that I felt were really mine to I'd made this decision to be able to develop a product that I believed in. Yeah. And that stress
is now passing through
to Charlie, and I thought, so we ended up actually launching sooner than I'd originally planned because of cash flow. So I needed to get that through. But I remember sitting on the bed and Charlie saying to me, "Luke, honestly, I think this is going to be a side hustle." Yeah. I don't honestly feel, and I love our relationship, that I don't take it personally. It's nothing, that it's not an attack against me. It's just that I had the vision, and I had the knowledge of the market and the industry, and there was nothing there at the time, which wasn't there in Charlie's mind. And as much as an entrepreneur, you're starting something, you can talk to everybody about it, which we normally do, right? Yeah. It's not always easy for everybody else to get that vision and to understand that, because they think you're nuts. You're absolutely nuts. And I said to her, I completely understand. I said, I don't feel that way. I really feel this is going to be something special. I need you to trust me on it. And she did. She did. So we launched a little earlier than expected. We actually launched at the Fit Expo. It was the first Fit Expo in Liverpool. So that'll always be sort of close to heart, and which is why we sponsored the sort of strongman event and bits for the last Fit Expo. So that'll be 2 years, since launching properly.
See, when you actually look at the business, the way you talk about it, it actually feels to me as a lot more, in terms of time, a lot more of a maturer business than it actually is. I mean, you guys are like, a couple of years old. Just so people kind of understand the sort of, you've done ice baths and saunas and stuff for, the Stoltman brothers, the strongmen, people like Tom Hardy, Billy from F2, Ollie Mers, Ross Edgley, Brian Shaw. The list is endless, from people that are on the telly to influencers to sports people to strongmen. Yeah. Everybody, and you see some of your stuff on Instagram, it's great. You're going up there building it yourself and doing all this sort of stuff, and the product looks great. It's kind of, in 2 years, like a couple of years in. I mean, in terms of sort of the scale of the the business in terms of income.
Yep.
First and second year, what sort of, for people that are listening, what sort of size are we talking here?
So last year was our first product ended up going out the door in the September of 2021. So we'd actually launched it in the June.
Yeah.
But I'd put a long lead time on there because honestly, I needed the cash flow through, but I'd not finished certain aspects of the design I wasn't 100% happy with. But I knew what the process would be. I hadn't got the parts in yet.
Yeah.
So we started to take orders through, which then allowed me to be able to get everything that was needed.
Yeah.
So our first orders actually started going out in the September. Because for me, one of the biggest important things with the whole of this business was to be able to make the ice baths as affordable as possible. So what I did is I started off as a sole trader. So it was Luke Mace trading as the ice bath company.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. One of the reasons is that I didn't want to have to charge VAT if I didn't need to.
Yeah.
Because another 20% on top of what the ice bath cost could be the difference of affordable or not. So I went up to the VAT threshold as a sole trader, and then obviously had to start a limited company up. But when you start a limited company up, obviously it's a new entity, so your VAT resets again because it's got zero trading through there. Very quickly got back up to that VAT threshold again. So our first year accounts we actually trade from January to December.
Yeah.
And this is what's mad is we did over £1 million in our first year. From and
a standing start.
Yeah.
There's no back, like you said there. You were selling it before the product was ready. So
when somebody says to me, it's not possible to launch a successful business in a year.
Yeah.
You can't earn money from a business in a year. I'm telling you, you can. You really can.
Yeah.
If it's done right, if it's done well, and you're not greedy. You're as well. For me, one of the biggest, real important things, and how we were able to scale so quickly, is through social media. We're able to work with some incredible people, and we work with them because and chose those specific people who were going to be relevant to the brand. So it's people who were talking about cold water therapy, people who were talking about mental health, physical recovery. I didn't want any Tom, Dick and Harry as an influencer who had nothing to do with this space pushing a product, because people see through that. It's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. I see it all the time online, and I don't ever want to be a company who is using sort of people like that just for the sake of it. And we get approached all the time. We'd love to collaborate with you. We'd love to collaborate with you. I go through their sort of content, and there is nothing on cold water. There's nothing on XYZ that is pertinent to our business. So I won't work with them. I'll happily sell them your products, but I'm not going to work with them on that kind of basis.
It dilutes the meaning and the deepness of your brand, doesn't it? Because like everybody knows these days, it's like, I've got a bottle of water here, and I'm Kim Kardashian, and I've got a bottle of Evian water, and you need to buy it. Versus, actually a brand that maybe somebody believes in. Somebody that's maybe less known with less followers, but has got a history of health, wellness.
That's it.
Wanting and needing to drink good quality water that's clean, that's X, Y, and Z. That's a lot more believable. And I think that's where advertising and everything goes with Instagram and TikTok, is finding relevant people in those areas, keeping it short and snappy, straight to the point, believable, real life, sort of live content, really. Which is why all the lives have gone mad on the social media. I don't think anyone really buys that way anymore, because you do see through it. See the L'Oreal adverts and all this sort of stuff, and the stars that are like, this is done great, and then at the bottom of the screen we've tested 100 people, and that's it, 80% of them think it's good, and it's like, you're just getting paid for something. I'm not buying it because you're holding it. I'm buying it because it makes a difference to my life, and I see the synergy. I believe the story. I know the backstory, which is why I really wanted one of your baths as well, because kind of knowing a bit about the backstory, being local, and obviously a couple of people that work for you that I know, and all that sort of stuff. And it's kind of like when you actually then go and see the products, it's great. Like, you're blown away with it because it's like it's actually better than others as well. It's not, you're not just buying something because it's someone you know and you want to do them a favour.
That's right.
You go and see the product. It's actually shit hot.
Yeah.
And it does. It's completely different to anything else on the market.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the things that we try to do, is to make sure that that it's not just about having a good social presence, but for us, it's about having one of the best products that's out there on the market. And for us, it was important to make sure it was as idiot-proof to use as possible, but also bulletproof. Whenever you're developing a product, you're always going to have little niggles. It is what it is, but. For I was saying, one of the most important things for me when scaling a business is people. Having the right people around you that aren't yes men, that will push you, but that also you can trust and help you grow. So one of the big decisions that we've made just over a year back was to bring Chris, who's our ops director now. He's also my brother-in-law. We've worked on other projects beforehand. We've worked together for years, but to bring him onto the team, and so Chris now, he runs a good 80-90% of the day-to-day operations, which allows me to have a look at this space and build on this fire.
Where are we going next?
Where are we going next? I can stay up here and I can be on the lookout for other opportunities. And it's just having good people around you who are able to take load off you that you can trust, for me, has been the sort of real big game changer on how we've been able to scale so quickly.
So where would you say your biggest... So you mentioned when you first started there was challenging moments.
Yeah.
What was the biggest one and why?
I think for me, one of the biggest challenging moments was time, right at the start, because I was building every one of the ice baths. I was delivering every one of the ice baths. I was replying to hundreds of emails and phone calls throughout the day as I'm trying to do all of this. And very quickly reached a point of
shit.
Because you're just drained constantly. And we've just spoken about that sort of work-life balance, but you need to have an understanding, especially when you're launching a business, that balance isn't going to be there. But that understanding needs to be a collective understanding, I feel, with family, that this is the season that we're in at the minute, and we're working to change that. But right now, this is intense. This is intense. This is what I need to be doing for things to grow. And I remember the first paid employee that we had was my father-in-law. Literally, I just said to him, I said, mate, listen, I'm getting back at the end of the day and I'm having to build, but my garage is a state. Because I'm building 3 or 4 ice baths in the day. I've got the chillers going through assembly. So when I get back and I need more ice baths building, I'm spending an hour, 2 hours cleaning before I can do it. I said, are you able to, I know it sounds cheeky, to literally come in and just clean the garage for me? Because we started in the garage. And he says, mate, I'd love to. Because he loves this sort of cleaning and being hands-on with it. So he was the first guy that we sort of had on. He only worked a couple of hours a day. But honestly, that was a game changer. For me, I'm thinking, I can let go of the really mundane tasks so that I can then be a lot more proactive and efficient with my time and earn more income, drive more revenue through. I can do more revenue generating activities as opposed to spending 2 or 3 hours cleaning my garage. And and it just sort of went from there. I mean, we're a team. We've got 9 or 10 of us now that are working full time. There's other guys that we pull on as and when that's needed for deliveries and installs and different bits. But
what are you sort of going to do this year, do you reckon, compared to your million your first year? What do you reckon you're going to...
The goal is for 3. The goal is for 3 million this year, again with the UK being a big part of that. But we got the US, which is looking at opening very shortly. For me, all of this simply means that we're able to be in the homes of more people. We're very privy to lots of people's stories, and that for me, this is why I love what I do, because so many people have come through to us and said that cold water has literally either changed their lives or saved their lives. And when I'm able to have a conversation with somebody, when they say, honestly, your ice bath saved me, I think,
there's no, there can't be a bigger motivator than that.
I'm in an industry where I'm able to literally help people, save lives to an extent through something that I was able to design. I think that for me is incredible.
Powerful, isn't it?
It's hugely powerful. And there was a gentleman that came to see us just recently, and Jake actually sort of had him in, and me and Chris were in the factory. We were busying about. I think we were sauna building a bit, and I'd introduced myself. We'd had a brief conversation. Jake, carried on with his tour, showed him the ice baths and saunas and bits. And Jake then came out and said, "Mate," he says, that was one of the most difficult conversations I've ever had. And I thought he was saying it was because the guy was awkward.
Yeah,
I didn't get that vibe from him. He was a relatively quiet guy, but I didn't get that sort of awkward vibe from him. And I said, "Oh, mate, why?" He said, "Mate," he said, just 6 weeks ago he walked in and he'd lost his wife to suicide."
Wow.
And instantly with it, you could hear a pin drop in the factory as he come out and sort of said that. And I thought to myself, this guy has literally just been through the shittest time of his life.
Yeah,
I couldn't imagine this, and I hear stories like this, and I'm a husband.
Yeah,
right. You're in the same boat, and I could just imagine.
You can't imagine, can you? That's the thing. It's
mate, the pain would be unbearable.
Yeah,
absolutely unbearable. But for him, what he'd done is he'd come to us as a business seeking. What he wasn't seeking for was an ice bath and a sauna. What he was seeking for was peace.
Yeah,
he was seeking for peace of mind, and we've been able to develop products that help that.
Yeah,
and every single time I hear something like that, I'm touched, and it motivates me more to be able to grow this and to spread the message.
Help more people. Really.
Help more people.
It's not about how many ice baths. It's about helping more people.
No, that's right. And he'd ended up coming back to us and saying, "Do you know what? I don't think I'm in the right headspace at the minute to make a decision financially on this." And Jake had said this to me, and I said to Jake, I said, "Mate, I'm struggling to even imagine what he's going through right now, but I know that jumping in the ice bath and having some kind of grounding and centering experience for him is going to be helpful for him." I said, "Let him know that he can borrow an ice bath, that he can just have it. And if he ends up saying that he wants to buy it, then he can buy it. If he ends up saying, do you know what, it's not for me, then we'll take it back and we'll give it to somebody else to use." Jake said that he phoned him up and he was in tears.
Yeah, wow.
I'm grateful to be in a position to be able to do that.
Yeah.
To be in a position to be able to help people. For me, as I said, this is what I do it all for.
And you wouldn't have got that, and you didn't get that from the other things that you were looking at, like your coaching and stuff like that. And the thing is, the good thing, the clever thing that happens with that is, like I said about the business being a couple of years old, going from strength to strength, in terms of the way that it's branded, you can, what you've just said there in that last sort of 4 or 5 minutes, you can't see it, you can feel it. You can feel it in the interactions you have with staff that you have. You can see it when you go, you can see it and feel it when you go into, there's that energy, there's the passion around a product, and you don't need to sell it.
No, that's right.
I never want, when we were having a conversation with Jake, yes, I've gone to look at an ice bath, a bit like a car, I suppose. You're going to look at one, you're obviously interested in one. You're not just walking past, are you? Especially with your location, it's in the middle of nowhere in Crick. But like, as soon as you go and see these things, and it's not about the quality of the build and stuff like that comes into play, but it's kind of, you've already subconsciously bought peace, time, solace. And I remember started doing my ice bath journey when my daughter was born, and she came out not breathing they were CPRing her for about 45 minutes in the same room. So we saw it all, box came out, 15 people in the room, they're up and down on her legs and she's floppy, she's a different colour. My missus is being sewn up and being sorted out over there, lost a lot of blood, not really knowing what's going on because she's off her head on gas. I'm seeing all this going on. I know in the corner of my eye things are going on, like masks are coming out, and we didn't hear anything for like over half an hour. Just constantly speaking to her about everything's fine, they're just working on it, she just needs some help, don't worry, focus on yourself, I'm keeping an eye, it's all good, don't worry about it. And I remember coming home, she went into intensive care for a week. I remember coming, you're not allowed to stay there. I tried to stay there, stupidly I tried to hide in the room to try and stay. I slept in the room, I just kept falling asleep and they just sent me away. They're like, it's not a hotel, we understand, but you can't stay. And I remember going back home 2 in the morning, 11 at night, 4 in the morning, whatever it was, and I'd go into the garage, which I've converted into a bit of a gym, do my workout on my own with some music playing, and then I get in the temporary ice bath that I had before I got your one. And that gave me something. It wasn't about the ice bath, it wasn't about the look of it, it was about that gave me 5-10 minutes to shut my eyes, focus on what was important, maybe regain a little bit of energy, try and talk to myself about whatever I was struggling with. I was worried, wanted to be at the hospital, worried about my partner, worried what was going on, who was working on her overnight, all these things. But it was 10 minutes for me to recharge, and I needed that recharge because I needed to be on form at 8 o'clock in the morning, get straight back, support my partner, support Delilah, and I need that time. And that time for me was it was a recharge. Time on my own. 10 minutes where actually I didn't once think about anybody else, just thought about me, being in the moment, breathing, and cover, doing something that I thought was going to be really, really, well, it still is pretty tough getting in 3 or 4 degrees for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, isn't it? Definitely. You never find it easy, but it was a challenge for me, and I played something in my mind, which is if I don't stay in here for 10 minutes, something's going to happen. I have to stay in this bath. And it was that sense of solace, peace, but also challenge. I want to get out. As we all do, you get in it, you immediately want to get out. There's nothing about that experience that you think, I want to stay in here. No matter whatever it is. And because of the time and the lack of sleep, it was an ultimate challenge for me. And I don't like water anyway, so I can't swim. Not that I'm going to drown in it, but going under, putting your head under, for me, just takes me straight back to year 3 and nearly drowning in the swimming pool at Kingsthorpe. So it's kind of like there's a multitude of different reasons why I went and wanted to do it. And it worked for me in that moment. So I can definitely understand, not how that guy was feeling, but definitely understand the benefit of having that recharge, that energy, and time to yourself is really important.
That's it. And I think I remember I had the opportunity to be able to interview Wim Hof just under 2 years back now at the first Arnold's Sports Festival. And one of the things that he'd said to me really stuck out. And he'd said, you give me 4 days and I can teach you how to overcome fear, anxiety, sadness and depression. And I thought...
Powerful statement.
But there was a room of nearly 1,000 people that we were in front of, and everybody's nodding their head, and for me, I'm not a nodder. Somebody says something like that, I'm thinking,
how? What?
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Because this is massive. Fear, anxiety, sadness, and depression, for me, arguably, are 4 of the strongest emotions that us as humans are able to go through and feel. You've got the flip side of that of love, kindness, etc., etc. But for whatever reason, I think those on the opposite side, those fear, sadness, anxiety, depression are so huge, or can feel so huge when you're in the moment. And so I'd finished the interview with him, and this is going through my head, and it got stuck. Overcome fear, sadness, anxiety, depression, and I got to a stage where I thought, you know what? I think I get it. Why breath work in the cold water is so powerful at overcoming these emotions. Because actually, when it comes down to it, overcoming these emotions is not about not feeling them. It's about not being controlled by them, because you'll still feel it. As we go about our day-to-day activities, there are moments of anxiety that just crop up. It is what it is. But overcoming those emotions is about not letting them control us, but that we're able to see it, to understand it, but carry on with our day-to-day activities and not let those emotions control us, but that we have a control to some extent over them. And there's a phrase that I really, really love, and for me, I think one of the biggest teachers that the cold is for us is patience. It's proactive patience, knowing that actually to be able to get to the destination of recovery, or the destination of lack of or a control of these emotions of fear, anxiety, sadness, and depression, and not having to have a constant battle with them.
Yeah.
It's a journey, but also knowing that I need to go through that journey to be able to get there. But it doesn't mean that you just do nothing. Patience isn't about doing nothing. Patience is, for me, which is why I use the word proactive patience, is you need to be doing the things that are going to get you to that end result. And for me, the ice bath is a massive way to be able to do that, because when you're sat there, as you said, nobody wants to sit there.
Yeah.
And I hate sitting in it
for
a long period of time.
Yeah.
I'm a very impatient person, so which is why I set mine to 2 degrees, so I only need to do 2 or 3 minutes in it. I find it difficult to stay in there for a long length of time, not because it's cold, but because of my head.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just an impatient kind of person. So for me, it teaches me patience, but I think that what it does is it teaches us that we can go through those times of difficulty. We can go through those times when things are hard, and be okay with it, because we're overcoming those feelings and not being overcome by them.
Now, I've seen a huge change since I started doing mine, because it's the way that I look at it is there's always challenges coming in your life. And you mentioned about work-life balance. My idea on that is there's no work-life balance. It's just life with a set of choices, and some days some things are going to win, some days some things are going to lose, and that for me takes the pressure off of having to try and create this fictitious work-life balance. Sometimes, like you said, when you involve communication, people close to you, people get it and understand a little bit more, but I think in terms of my ice bath, it not only gives us the solace, it's more for me for the challenge, because I know that there's going to be challenges thrown at me in the day, whether it be personal, professional, or mixture of both. I don't like water. Don't like cold water, certainly, and going in, doing a dip, head under, sitting there for 4 minutes, and that I'm already doing the hardest thing in the day that I'm ever going to do. I'm already doing it. So by the time somebody wakes up at 7 o'clock, I'm already a stage further. And it's not about competing, but I'm already there. So no matter what happens, whether it's cash flow with a business, whether it's we've not hit a target, whether it's customers pissed off, whether it's I've missed, like you said, missed something personally and it's put me in a bit of hot water, whether it's stress and strain of all of that stuff. Or positive stuff that you just mind is just alive, thinking about the next thing, and you can't switch off. Whatever it is that it's not going to be as bad as what I've just done. So
I've eaten my biggest frog of the day.
Keep me going. Do you know what I mean? I've got some questions from people on social media.
Shoot.
So we'll go with this one. So this is from Joe off Twitter. So how do you keep innovating your products? How do you keep coming up with ideas?
For me, I lay in bed at night. And it just keeps on going, which for me is why I take my ice bath in the evening, because it helps me shut off. But for me, do you know what, that's a really good question. I think it's a question that every business owner needs to ask themselves, because what we need to do if we're in an area, whether it's a service or a product, there's 2 ways in which we can expand business. One is with new products, which is what most people go into too quickly, is new products. But what they forget to do is to better the existing product base or service base that they have. So for me, it's 2-pronged, because I'm very mindful and aware that I always, and as a team, we need to be always bettering our existing product base, whether that's working with new suppliers on X, Y, or Z to make sure that it's even more better than what it is now. But for me as well, for new product, it's about an ice bath. It's cold water, right? So for me, it's about experience. How can I make the experience of an ice bath better? How can I make it more challenging, potentially? And we've got a couple of products that for me, I'm excited to sort of look at very shortly, which completely flip the experience of an ice bath on its head. And one of them that we just, I put a couple of little sneak peeks out on. We're going to be calling it the Polar Plunge. And the idea behind this actually came from a conversation I had with Tamsin Outhwaite, who was in Freeze the Fear, the program that Wim Hof did with all those guys. And she'd said to me, she was explaining that experience, because the first trial they had was they were on an ice lake, and they cut this hole out of the lake and they tethered them, and what they had to do was to jump into this water. And she said, honestly, I would not have done that had there not have been a camera on me, because I was shit scared of going in the water.
Yeah.
And I thought, imagine if we could recreate that.
Yeah.
Imagine if that was doable. And I thought, how could we do that? We're not going to be able to do it with the existing ice bath now, because if you try to jump in there, you're going to bottom out really quickly, because it only really sort of goes up to here. And I thought, the other thing is we don't want to go into people's gardens and dig out massive holes, because it's a pain in the neck logistically. So I thought, well, let's make a massive ice bath that imitates and is exactly the same sort of process as you're stood on the very edge of it. Water's freezing cold, still goes down to 2 degrees, but you have to commit 100% to it, because you're
going all under.
You're going all under.
Yeah.
You're going all under. So I remember having a conversation with Chris about it, and he says, mate, you're mad. And I says, yeah, but there's going to be people that are just as mad as me who are going to want to do this. So literally the first time I did it, I was cacking myself.
Yeah.
I've been doing ice cold water for years now, but literally I completely understood what Tamsin was saying.
Different experience.
So different, mate. So different. So that sort of plunging experience where you're stood on the platform just before you go into the ice bath, it's about the same size as our sauna. So it's a good size unit. It's got a wraparound staircase on it. So it's a lovely looking bit of kit. But the experience is like nothing I've ever had before.
But that's that you say about how you can't develop those ideas. So for Joe that you mentioned. So you said about you could have heard what Tamsin said and done nothing. But now you've done something.
Definitely.
You productised it, monetised it, and now it's going to deliver to the market something that nobody else has done.
That's it.
I mean, that's the 360 degree, isn't it? Ideas can come from anywhere. Innovation comes from anywhere, but it's being open to want to innovate as well, I think, is important, isn't it? Because it's easy sometimes, especially if you're doing okay, is just to keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit dangerous, because you never. And what I like, what I said before you come on, is it's great because you're kind of like a year ahead of the industry. You know what's coming, and actually probably pioneering that area. And in a year's time, other people may be doing that, but then you'll be on to the next thing.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing. I always knew that there'd be competitors that would come to market. Very quickly, because there's other entrepreneurs who go, mate, you see what this geezer's doing? He's smashing it with ice baths. You know what? I can do it a little bit differently, and it is what it is. And I invite competition. I don't invite people copying. Don't copy. I don't think that's good business in the slightest.
Yeah.
But competition keeps you on your toes, and for me, being ahead of the game and looking at different experiences for me is what really sets us apart. Because for me, I'm my own guinea pig. I have a love for this. I love this. This isn't just about making money. I honestly love all of this space, and I love cold water, and I love different experiences.
It's a lot better than what was it the video you got on your Instagram? The first one that you did was it like a?
Oh mate, it was a toolbox.
You had a big. I mean, you probably don't know from Luke just sitting there and whatever. But you're how tall?
6'3",
and you weigh
about 112 kilos.
You're big guy, and you just see this guy fit into this large box thing with this hose coming into it, and the water. It's full of water, and he just goes into it, and the water just goes. Whoa. There's probably like no water left in it at all.
No,
it's crazy.
But everybody has to start somewhere. So when somebody says, which is why every single time we're tweaking with somebody, we'll always ask them, "What's your journey been? Where did you start?" Anybody coming on, because they love talking about their journey about cold water. For me, it was a toolbox. For a lot of other people, it's a wheelie bin or a whiskey barrel or any other of the inflatable units that are available. It doesn't matter where you start. Just start. Some people, it's just the shower. Others, it's the bath at home. Just getting in cold water is amazing.
And how did you find out about the kind of flip on that? So you do cold and hot. So you've got saunas and ice baths and stuff. So how's that kind of come about?
I love heat, mate. I'm a hot person, and so I grew up. Me and my dad would always go for a sauna. So I would train with him. He really got me into weight training. But we'd love going in the saunas, going in the steam room, and we used to hate the cold showers. So we'd always have the hot showers afterwards because we had no idea about the cold and whatnot back then. But I'd always loved saunas. But as we were going and delivering ice baths, we'd have a lot of people say, "Listen, do you know where's best to get an outdoor sauna?" And I'd say, "No," because the insulation on them was useless. They didn't really get to temperature very well. And I thought, well, let's design one. So I thought, if we can make one that looks a similar sort of thing to our ice baths, Doesn't take up a lot of space because, again, these are going in people's gardens, and sort of real estate and space is of a premium. But again, that aesthetically it needed to look great. So for me, if I wanted to get something past my wife, it would need to look really good for her to go, oh, actually, I can see that in the garden. And that's not going to be an eyesore. And as soon as we launched the saunas, it went bonkers.
It must be so popular.
Oh, it's mad. I mean, we're expanding again. We're just about to sign a lease on another unit just next door to us. So we'll have a sauna centre. So that will be where all of our saunas are manufactured and built and made. And then we'll have where we're in now, literally just for ice baths. With the polar plunge, and then with the next hydro unit that we're working on is going to be incredible as well. A real hybrid unit. That we can use all the space that we're in now just for ice baths and development, and it gives me a space as well to be able to have my Mad Hatter days
and make stuff.
I think everybody in the factory hates it when I'm in that zone because it's mess everywhere. Because it's just I'll pull bits from here and I'll pull bits from there, and but I love it.
Okay, well, hopefully that asks Joe's question in terms of sort of innovation.
Yeah.
So Jake on Instagram asked about starting your own firm.
Yes.
So top couple of tips in terms of going about doing that.
Yeah, top couple of tips has been really specific what it is that you want to do. Really specific. So it depends whether it's a product or service again, but and also have a really good idea as to who your target audience is. Because if you don't have an idea, it's going to be really difficult for you to market to them.
Yeah.
So for me, when I first launched the ice bath company, it was in the strength, sort of arena. Graham Hicks is a good friend of mine, and he was the first person outside of my sort of immediate family, really outside of Charlie, that I'd spoke to about the ice baths, and he was prepping for Worlds, and he said, I'm desperate for one. So he ended up having my prototype at the time. I said, don't talk to anybody about it.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, don't worry. I said, because I'm not ready to launch yet. Then he goes off to Worlds. They come back. I then had a phone call from the Stoltman lad saying, "Luke, I hear you're doing ice baths. Is that right?" That was the worst Scottish accent.
I like that.
And then it really sort of snowballed from there, because for me, I was using it as an athlete. I was bodybuilding and sort of in prep, and so for me, when I first started the marketing, it was on athletes.
Okay.
And it worked really, really well. But very, very quickly, it shifted and now 90% of individuals investing in ice baths are not athletes. Athletes are still a large part of it, but it's people just doing it for the mental health and their mental resilience rather than physical health.
Yeah.
Being really clear about who your target audience is and not being afraid to just start, because 9 times out of 10 people can have a really good business idea but they never do anything with it.
Yeah.
And also, don't half-arse it. Even if it's a side hustle, go all in. You need to put the time, money and effort into it to be able to really scale it and to see if it's going to go anywhere. So don't half-arse it. Be really clear with who your customer is and what they look like, and make sure it's something that you're passionate about, because you've got 2 things when you're starting a business, especially when it's a new business, is that your new business isn't going to have a brand. All right, so people can't buy into that brand because they don't know what it is. So it's really important that you have a personal brand and that you are visible so that they can buy into you, because people buy from people, which is, for me, why I try to be as visible as possible on socials, even still now. And why I have features that make me recognizable. It's why I have my big beard. It's why, for me, I make sure that I'm training hard so that I'm really easily recognized. And building a personal brand, not just your business brand, but especially at the start of it, is so important to have a good mix of the both.
Okay, good, interesting. And then lastly, so we've spoke about work-life balance. Dave off Facebook's asked, how do you juggle business and home life?
It's not a question of trying to make time, because everybody has the same amount of hours in the day. It's about priorities. And I don't care what you do. If your priority's at work, you're going to spend time at work. If your priority is the gym, you're going to have time at the gym. If your priority is at home, you're going to spend time at home. So it's about being really honest with yourself about where are my priorities. So for me, I will carve my training time around family. So what I don't want to do is to spend loads of time away if I'm away at work anyway, and then spend another hour or so down.
Do you train at home, or do you go somewhere to train?
I normally train at the gym. It's just in Malton, literally 10 minutes away from where I am. And so I'll either do that after I put Littleton to bed, and then I'll go off to the gym, or I'll do it first thing in the morning. And then yes, that sort of work life, it is just a question of where your priorities are, and just making sure that you're being true to that,
priorities
and honest
choices
with it as well.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right, well, that's all for the questions. So where can people, look, just before we sort of end, and throw it back to you, so you can sort of tell people where they can find the Ice Bath Company and yourself if they want to, you know, interact and have a chat and ask some questions. I think the biggest sort of takeaway for me from this is really trying to convey the not just the fact that your ice baths are great, but I think you touched upon it with your example, that chap that lost his wife.
Yeah. It's
the benefits that come from doing an ice bath that are over and above maybe the physical benefits, and that people should look at putting themselves out their comfort zone and look at it as an option and consider it as an option, because it can really, really make a difference to your life and the way that you feel in and out of your head, and therefore the people that are in and around you as well. If you're a better individual, you know, your family and your kids are also going to be better individuals because of it, and you've got that responsibility to portray that in the right way, and sometimes you need a bit of help. And for me, the ice bath gives me the ability to have that little bit of strength to do that. So if anybody is interested in doing that, you know, Luke will tell you where you can find him and have a chat, and you know, speaking to people like Chris and Jake that work for you and stuff, equally as passionate about the business, the meaning behind the business and all that sort of stuff. So really, really great. So where can people find you, mate, and find your business if they want to?
Yeah, my website is just theicebath.co. You search us on Instagram as the Ice Bath Company. Again, just theicebath.co is our Instagram handle. Me, for whatever reason, it's Luke.Mace, if you fancy reaching out. But I look after our social accounts anyway. So if you're putting a message through on the Instagram page or bits, that'll come through to me. But yeah, I mean, just briefly touching on what you were saying about the sort of mental health space as well. I mean, Luke Stoltman is a really avid promoter of cold water use, and I remember watching a video that he'd said a little while back that he uses cold water for his mental health predominantly. He's in it every single day, and he I remember him saying that if ever you're having feelings of depression or anxiety and you say to yourself, but I've tried everything, he says, if you've not tried cold water, I'm telling you now, you've not tried everything, because that for him is really the one reason predominantly why he's using it. And exactly as you said, that a lot of the time as well, what people are searching for is something that's a little bit more than just cold water. It's got to be more than just getting in cold water to be able to help with this. And sometimes it can be that easy. I say easy because it's a difficult thing to do, but if you've not tried it, you need to try it, because it may just be that one thing that you've not done which makes a complete massive difference. Could
be a massive change, and I'll second that for me personally, and also, you know, some of the people that you speak with on social media, and some of the people that post videos and stuff, and you know, it's not just people in the public eye that go and buy your stuff. And you mentioned about, obviously, one of the goals is bringing that idea and option to have an ice bath to people that can afford it. You know, when you look at that side of things as well, you've got a really great blend, because you've got the meaning behind the business that really does make a difference, and you can feel it, not just see it. But visibly, the ice baths are really good quality. They look different because of the wood clad and the metal strips, and they just don't look plasticky. They look expensive. They look rustic, as well as being, you know, nice to look at, like you said, in someone's garden. And the saunas are the same. And actually, then when you look at the price compared to other brands out there, which I'm sure are fantastic, they come in way lower. So it's kind of like you're ticking, it looks great, it does the business, it's great brand, you know, you're buying from great people, it feels good, you're making a difference to your life, but you're not spending 10 grand on an ice bath, which, let's be honest, the normal person won't have that. However important and beneficial it is, they won't have it, because that's just not the life we live in. So I think it ticks so many boxes because of that as well. And you know, when you're looking at all the reasons why people would buy something, price, service, emotive connection, you know, what difference it can make to their life, buying from a nice business with good people in it, it ticks every single box.
Yeah.
It really, really does. And I'm not saying that just
good
because
to
you're
hear.
here, because you know how long we've been talking to try and get you on.
No.
And it's because of this, is that I think that the more people that listen and understand the story of where you started, what you've done, how you've got the idea, how you brought it to market, what you're doing with it, you're not just sitting there. Because look, let's be honest, you're probably sitting in a reasonably comfortable state in terms of where your life's at the moment. People would like that themselves. It's like, well, actually, you're still looking for more. You're still looking to innovate and that comes from the passion, not because of money. That comes from the passion of trying to make a difference to people. And I think 100%. When you spoke about that other chap, your tone of voice changed with that, because you can tell it means something to you. And then you start thinking about your own situation. And then it doesn't matter what the thing costs.
No.
I need this.
No.
You need it for you, don't you, at the end of the day? So.
And that's what's special about all of this. I love the work, and I think one of the keys to life success is, especially when it's something to do with work, you find something that you love and find a way to call it work. And and I get to do that. I feel I get to do that every day. And I love the guys that I'm able to work with. We've been able to build a fantastic team. But I love the guys as well that are buying the products, because every single one of them have got a story, and every one of those stories touches me. It helps me, and so I'm ever grateful, and will be, and that's one of the reasons why we'll continue to innovate, because new products will attract new people to it, and they're then going to be able to share the message of cold water. And it's a funny space, that how magical. We're in an industry where we're selling cold water. It's mad. But it has such a profound effect on so many people.
I think when you think about the mission that you're trying to, what you're trying to do with it and stuff, it's great, and you've done really, really great so far. Like I said at the start, a couple of years in. Crazy. What? How many people are you going to be touching, and lives you're going to be changing in 10 years? And what products are going to be available then? And it's the world's the oyster, really.
The world is the oyster, mate.
If you want to make it so.
And that's no doubt. For me, it is about making, branching out. And that's going to be to new countries, again, new products moving forwards. So it's going to be an exciting ride. Good. Certainly moving forward.
Well, look, we can't wait to see it, and like I said, thanks for coming on, and we'll tag you in the bits when they go up and let you know, and then we'll go from there, mate. And I think anyone watching it, listening to it, be inspired, improve the knowledge on the benefits of what you're doing, and also what you're doing in terms of for other people is great. So thanks for coming on, mate.
A big thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, man.